Hello and welcome into the Sun Solar Panel on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Espo. Ahoy, hoy.
I'm Dave King. How's it going, folks?
And we've got a very special guest this week. His name is Brandon, aka. Do you prefer Brandon? I'm before I get into the big introduction here. Do you prefer Brandon?
Before we compliment him, let's give him
whatever you feel like calling me. Brandon, Zona, doesn't matter to me.
Brandon, Zona, whatever we prefer. He's actually a great draft expert from Brightside, and you can follow him on social at AZ Sports Zone and check out his own website, azsportszone.net. I'm going to call you Zona because it's more fun that way. And I'm somebody that appreciates a good nickname. So glad to have you on the program today.
Yeah, this is Espo talking about nicknames here.
Four letters.
Let's be straight, man.
Yeah, well, look, I appreciate a good 4-letter nickname. And, we use a few other choice 4-letter words, but I appreciate a good 4-letter nickname. So Zona, thank you so much for joining us. We'll get into your draft expertise as part of this show. Obviously, for those of you watching on YouTube, it is Halloween, so it's a Mario.
Mario? Wait a minute. Who am I? You guys won't recognize this. But this is actually a fan at an NBA basketball game. Those things happened back in the olden times.
I thought you were first-year Robert Sarver with the foam finger and the
I could be.
and the flag.
I could be. In fact, thanks for ruining my outfit. I appreciate that. I'm first-year Robert Sarver. And wait, for you, Espo, who am I now?
Rhett Reese. For those of you listening on the podcast, he is wearing sunglasses.
Morning, Rhett.
And there is a story. Our friend Rhett Reese, the probably what I like to joke the most famous Suns fan. Obviously, the writer.
He's the one who makes the Deadpool movies.
Yes, the writer of Deadpool, Zombieland, a laundry list of other films. He actually went to a preseason game with Dave and I. Actually, you know what? I'm pretty sure it was the Spurs game 2 preseasons ago that got Ryan McDonough fired. Was the preseason game that we went to, and poor Rhett broke his glasses and had to wear sunglasses during the game because he couldn't see otherwise. Right, so it looked like the most Hollywood thing possible, right? He
even got on the Jumbotron.
He did, and I actually had a picture of that sent to me, and I've given him a hard time with that. But yes, Dave, I actually like that most is going with the sunglasses for today, the Rhett Reese look. I give a tip of the cap for
Suns
that.
Fan Rhett Reese. That's right. We're going with that.
I thought it was that or Joe Biden, since those are aviators. So and at your age, you're much closer to Joe Biden's.
That's everyone. That's what we all wear at this age. Well, see, I'm in the age where I'm into the aviators, but I'm too young to have the wraparounds that cover my side eyes too.
Well, you're there in about a year. Let's Zona. What is your costume for those listening on the podcast? They obviously can't see, so why don't you give a vast description? This is the most amazing costume you guys would ever see.
It's insane. I'm dressed as Mr. Orange. Actually, it's crazy. I'm just decked out in orange. But no, I'm just wearing a green shirt,
head to toe. It's crazy. No.
Green shirt just for cash considerations. Just kept it simple.
There you go.
Yeah.
The man
cash considerations.
The man knows how to pander to a host. By the way, glad to have everybody with us here on Halloween. We did start a few minutes late, and by a few minutes I mean 40. And there's not a good reason other than the fact that
we are very fortunate that we still got as many people in this chat. All right, well, folks, I'm going to have to switch back to my regular glasses because I can't read the chat in these things.
But yes,
because I do not have prescription sunglasses like Rhett does, where I can just go around, hanging out.
That's right. So I do apologize. I forgot to set my alarm So I woke up to Dave's voice on a call, which is my biggest nightmare ever. So Halloween is off to
well, dude,
very
you
much
weren't
a trick.
answering texts or tweets, and so I had to do the actual call. So maybe your sound was on and make you actually answer the damn phone.
Yeah, so like a horror movie, I had to wake up to Dave.
I blame Tim. David Bailey blames Tim. Yep.
We can keep that tradition alive. It was Tim Tompkins' fault.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. That Halloween is not the only thing that happened this week. Thank God, because this would be a really boring show if we just talked about about costumes the whole time. But Devin Booker was in the news this week for a couple of reasons. One, apparently he visited Bender Island with Kim Kardashian after 2 weeks of quarantining, but we're not going to talk about that. We're actually going to talk about that it was Devin Booker's birthday the other day, and he actually celebrated with a big party with his girlfriend Kendall Jenner. That's not a big deal. Everybody, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of guys celebrate their birthday, especially in their 20s with their significant other and their friends. But the weird thing is the theme of the party was frogs. Now, I did some extensive research, and by that I mean I typed into Google Devin Booker and frogs, and I could not come up with any reason why frogs would be the theme of the party. Dave, you're around the team. Have you ever heard of Devin Booker's love for frogs?
No, but it was a green themed birthday. There was tons of green. Did you ever find that picture?
I'm working on it still here.
Probably not. Okay, yeah. Well, maybe if you didn't wake up so late.
Oh yeah,
you'd have found it.
Yeah,
but anyway, it was a total green theme. They had green lights and everything. It felt like an entire Cash Considerations costume, actually, is what it looked like.
Yeah, next thing you know, Sarver's going to show up with some frogs in James Jones's office instead of the goats.
Instead of the goats.
That's a plague. We don't want to start a plague here. Well, I guess we're in a plague, so frogs would make sense if you add them into everything in 2020. I'm just going to say this, in a week that everybody seemed pretty obsessed with this, and we've talked about this on the show, I could not care less who Devin Booker dates, what he does on his free time, any of those things, as long as he comes back to Phoenix whenever they start officially working out and we have a time for this season to start. And he plays basketball well. I could not care less. I do not understand the obsession with this and how the Kardashian obsession in general has bled into a fan base now.
Well, they weren't socially distanced, though, so you never know. He might be hitting the Rona right now.
But I'm not going to – I don't know. Rich people can quarantine, like they did to get on Bender Island with Kim K. I don't know. I'm not going to judge any of that because I don't know the situation. And literally, as long as he's healthy, as long as
nobody should be getting mad at Devin Booker and all of his Kardashians and Jenners renting out an island in the middle of a pandemic to get closer to normal. Because you know what? If that was your normal, Brandon, you would be on that freaking island too.
I was actually there, by the way. I just got back.
Yeah. All right. Let's go with that. That's great.
Now
inside
I'm interested.
Scoop. Now tell us inside scoop.
I just
were
love
you there with Andrew Leesis? I mean, come on, all you guys. Yeah.
I just
Brandon Awadis, he was probably there too.
I just love how we only knew Booker was there because he kind of got caught in the background of one photo, and totally looked like he had no desire to get caught in the back of that photo. Like he didn't want anybody to really know he was on that island. I'm just wondering what hologram that Kanye got Devin for his birthday, because he got Kim a hologram of her late father. So how do you one up that for Devin Booker's frog birthday party? That's the only thing I care about. All right. So I think we've beaten this topic to death. Let's move on to something that actually was much more interesting this week. Thank God, because if that was all we had to talk about, I probably would have just continued to sleep in rather than wake up for this show. But we had some big news, right? Some big news this week from the Suns, and it was, you know what? There is a New Jersey that the Suns have unveiled, and it is actually, if you're watching on the show, you can see it there on the screen. It's a black jersey with a pixelated gradient of purple, orange, and yellow. It looks very much like the sunrise in Phoenix with what appears to be the outline of Camelback Mountain on it. It says the Valley across the top of it. I am a huge fan of these new jerseys. Now, uniform sets, everybody knows my obsession is with the shorts, so that will make or break how good this whole uniform is. But from the leaked photo that was later confirmed by the Suns, and we'll get into the photo that they used to confirm it in a second, but I actually really love these new jerseys, and I love the fact that the Valley is an identity that this group can latch on to. You know, each great Suns team had that. It was the Cinderella Suns in the 70s when they made the run. It was the Purple Gang from Phoenix in the 90s, 7 seconds or less. And I hope the Valley, and I know there's Valley boys that's been there. I hope this catches on and gives them their own identity. And this is a kind of an iconic look that's associated with them, because I really think it's sharp. I think it's fun. Dave, or actually, you know what?
Brandon,
who cares what Dave has to say?
You don't care what I think.
Zona, Brandon, whatever we're calling you. If you would like to share your thoughts, we'd love to hear them on this one.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I think it's something innovative and new and like fresh that they kind of needed, like you said, just to latch on to a new identity for a new era. And I think they're really going to pop on the court too. They're like, I remember back when the orange jerseys came out, everyone hated those. And then as soon as they put them on the court, everyone's like, okay, these aren't that bad. Like, I think these are going to look
last year's orange. Yeah. Like the one I'm wearing is actually the worst orange you could possibly have.
No, that's not true. The PHX 7 seconds or less era was the worst jersey, hands down.
That's true, because it had gray in it too.
Oh, after you came off the best look ever with the burst, you went to the Home Depot burlap sack of uniforms. So these, I think you're right though. When you see them on court on players, those that may not like them very much, I think may have a very different opinion of them, because I think they're really going to pop on television. I really did not. Go ahead, Dave. No,
I was just going to say, I'm not a jersey buyer. The jersey I'm wearing is actually a gift. I love it, but white men are not made to wear jerseys. Non-basketball players anyway. But anyway, I would buy that jersey. In fact, it would look fucking great with my hoodie, and I would actually wear that to a game if I wouldn't get in trouble on Media Row. But when I go as a guest, I would wear that jersey every time. That is the hottest jersey I've seen. And, I think forever. I think it's better than any black jersey the Suns have ever had, and possibly better than any jersey overall. I know it doesn't have a sunburst on, but that's not the point. It's got the pixels. It's got that color blocking. It's fire. It is fire. And tell us, read what you wrote there, man. That was a great write up.
So I loved, I loved when I was working for the team to get a chance to actually write the descriptions for these jerseys. It was just a fun thing that I got to do. And they changed jerseys surprisingly a lot in the 5 years that I was with the team. And so I wrote a kind of a not sarcastic, but kind of what I imagined I would have been asked to write when these jerseys, if I was still there when the jerseys came out. And I wrote, "We are the Valley, and we're proud of it. This jersey shows our dedication. The colors represent the dark of the desert night giving way to the dawn. Purple, orange, and yellow representing the sun's ascension from its slumber. It's the dawn of a new era, the ascension of the Suns. And I'm sure when the Suns officially unveil this, there'll be something cheesy like that that's written to go along with it. But I love these things. I don't know why, but I think it likely is the best jersey they've had since the burst back that went away in the early 2000s. I know people will say, oh, it looks like the Utah jersey, or it looks like the old Denver skyline. And I say, so everything, there's different elements that people steal and pick and choose. I think this is uniquely Phoenix.
Every idea there's no new ideas anymore. We've been around for thousands of years.
And it's got the purple, which not all their jerseys have had those. And I think that's a big deal on this one. So I'm a huge fan of these, and I give the team a lot of credit. I do feel bad because I know how hard the marketing department, the digital department worked to put together a campaign that they were gonna do with this, and I'm going to actually share what I think, or what obviously was part of it here in a second as well. But I feel bad for them because I know how much work goes into it, and then somebody decides to just randomly leak this on the internet, and all that hard work goes to waste. But
I love how he's hiding behind the unicorn.
I just I can't. Zona, you're younger than me, and probably about 50 years younger than Dave. What were your thoughts on this? Because I don't quite get the photo of Kelly Oubre on the horse in what looks like a cowboy vest, a cowboy hat, and the jersey under it, and it's covered in rhinestones. Am I just not cool anymore?
I think it's just a fashion statement from Kelly. He's probably the one that pushed the social media to post that, for being real here. But
I'm sure. So yes, you're just not with it. You're not cool anymore, Espo. That is cool. If you were wearing that, we would actually think you were. No, never mind. We wouldn't think you were cool. We would.
I think it's also to just confirm that, like the leak was true, because it was kind of all over Twitter and there was no confirmation. Yeah. So that, and it got good feedback. So I think sometimes those leaks might be strategic too, just to see what the fan feedback.
I gotta tell you, this one is better. If you guys remember back when when Alex Len was a rookie. You worked for the team then, didn't you?
Oh, if you rip this, I'm coming through the screen, because this was actually my idea. So
okay. So I thought it was okay. Look, I'm not going to totally rip it because I thought it was cool. Alex Len pulling his suit shirt open like Superman, showing a bit of the jersey.
Okay.
So, and that looked pretty good, but this tops it by like 1,000%.
Okay. New Superman movie came out right around the same time we did that shoot.
No, it was good. It was good.
Hey, I'm telling the background story of the Alex Len, how it came about. And we were
fireside chats with Espo.
It is. Deal with it. I got the mic and the mute button, so you can deal with it. All right. So rookie year, Alex Len comes in for his rookie photo shoot. We know we have these new jerseys coming. Everybody's like, well, let's just get a photo of him in it. So we have that. I'm like, well, why don't we try to do something different? So we get him in the jersey, and I share the idea. Well, we realize Alex Len has no tie, right? So we're like trying to make this work. I had to run down to the sales floor, which was 2 floors below, and steal a tie off a guy on the sales floor to give it to Alex Len so he could actually have that kind of Superman.
You took it off of him?
I took it off the sales guy to give it to Alex Len. Yes, I did. So that was how that came about. But yes, I think the best thing to come out of this picture unveil for them confirming it is Kelly Oubre has to be known as the Rhinestone Cowboy now, right? I mean, that seems like a fitting, perfect nickname for him based on this photo.
Definitely. When you were saying the cowboy jacket and cowboy hat and all that, I was like, but only Kelly Oubre would call that, the Wild West.
It's wild, I really, to Dave, to your point, because you can't really see the horse. I really hope it's a unicorn.
It should be a unicorn.
If he's riding a unicorn, I take back everything. I understand why it's cool with a 4-year-old daughter.
Rainbows, Valley, the jersey colored rainbow.
It's like the scene from Anchorman where they're just like riding through the sky with rainbows and unicorns.
While they're having sex, yes. Exactly.
Hey, Dave, why do we have to always go down that road? Dave, this is a family show.
Do we always go down that road?
But by the way, Saul Bookman, our friend in the chat, says that's a cool photo. Saul's older than me and younger than Dave, so I don't think it's an age thing. I just think I'm not cool anymore, which is fine. I was never really cool in my younger days anyway.
I was going to say, I'm going to argue with that one.
But I'm excited to see what the full campaign is, because I know this is just a small sneak peek, and I know they had been shooting across the valley.
Season, Oubre tweeted some pictures, has been tweeting pictures on Instagram, and he had some really awesome shorts too, with a huge sunburst on them.
I can confirm those are not official shorts. They came from a third party, and the first thing I thought was, "Ooh, could those be the city edition shorts?" And I reached out to some contacts. Those are not actual. Those were actual official Sun shorts.
But, I'm happy with this one.
So yes.
Let's come up with something that Zona can actually join us with.
Yeah, Zona. 7 seconds or less is reuniting in Brooklyn. Yeah. Another chip in that, another brick in that wall fell yesterday on Friday when Mike D'Antoni officially joined Steve Nash's staff, which now means it's Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni, and Amari Stoudemire making up a large portion of that coaching staff. What do you make of Steve Nash bringing the band back together in Brooklyn? And the most important question of all, is it all right for Suns fans to have a second favorite team since they're in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, first of all, it's going to be weird as hell just seeing that, like, all those guys on the same bench together. Like, the first time you see it, like, I don't know how I'm going to feel, but I'm definitely going to be rooting for, like, Brooklyn is my second team now. Just it would be awesome to see them get a ring somehow together, even if it's 20 years later down the road as coaches. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a tough task because I think the Nets still have like a long ways to go, and Kyrie and Durant, we don't know how healthy they are, and there's some questions about their rotation pieces too. So it's going to be a really interesting team to follow.
I don't know how I'd feel if they won a championship. Personally, I'd feel good for them. Yeah. But I feel as a Suns fan, that's going to leave some weird emotional feelings. I don't know.
It's all just really weird, honestly.
Yeah, I think seeing the three of them celebrate with the Larry O'Brien trophy may break something inside of me. I'm just kidding. I'm fragile, all right?
I'm trying not to sound like a skeptical a skeptic just because I'm a homer, but I was never a fan, and I tweeted it, and actually love the guy. Vince Kozar used to be in Suns media relations, and then he went over to the Mercury side. He was not happy, and he responded to me on Twitter. I still won't forget that. But I said there was no way Nash and D'Antoni was going to work in LA with the Lakers because they didn't have the right players. They didn't have the right people. They had too big of personalities with Kobe on there, wanted to play his way. And they had Dwight Howard on that team. And that was not the same as Amari. Dwight Howard at the time had the most points per shot on pick and rolls, but Dwight Howard's pick and rolls were totally different than Amari's pick and rolls. So I was thinking it wasn't going to work. And even before Nash got injured, remember D'Antoni got fired? Didn't he get fired like 6 games in or something like that? He got was that the season or the next season? But that did not work even when Nash was healthy in LA because they didn't have the right personnel. So I'm not convinced that Kyrie Irving can be your Steve Nash.
Oh, well, I was going to say, Dave, Steve isn't playing. He's the head coach, right? So I understand.
Yeah, but okay, Kyrie Irving stirring the drink, and Kevin Durant wanted to play his own game, which is incredible, absolutely incredible. but the ingredients don't seem to fit perfectly. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we will find out, and maybe sooner rather than later, depending on if the NBA season actually starts right before Christmas, as the owners hope it will.
It's funny. The players are fighting back. Let's talk about that. So it's funny. The players are fighting back, not wanting to start until Martin Luther King Day, which is about a month later than the owners want to start. And yet the players also don't want to give up any money. And there's no way you can play a full season and playoffs without all the competition. What happened this year? What happened this year with all the ratings across the board is that everybody basically sabotaged each other with ratings. And so the NBA was fighting against the MLB, was fighting against NFL, was fighting against Netflix and things like that. And the NBA ratings were down in the bubble, even though we're all excited to get sports back. But it's going to be down again next year if they're again late in the summer fighting with not only the NFL and MLB, but also the Olympics. So the NBA is being smart. They want to get the heck out of the way before all those other sports start up again. So they're only going to give 50 games to the players if the players insist on not starting until January.
Look, I get it from both sides. The league doesn't want to lose potentially up to $1 billion by starting in January, where they would save it if they start in December. And some of these players, particularly those who went deep in the playoffs, don't want to have to turn around and start as soon. But the thing to me, why it makes sense is if you wait till middle of January or a little later, you've got some teams that have waited then 10 months to play an NBA game again. Right? Yeah, those teams that didn't make it into the bubble, that haven't played since March. And I get it. Those tend to be the bottom feeding team, or those were the bottom feeding teams in the league, but still they're part of the league. I don't think you can expect teams to go a full 10 months and have to turn around and compete at any high level. I think that getting them back as quick as possible is beneficial to the game. And I get it. LeBron doesn't want to go back right away. Okay, play the first night or play Christmas Day and then take a week or two off if that's a big deal to you. I don't think the Lakers are going to complain, and whether you're the 1 seed or the 4 seed, you're still gonna have a great chance in the playoffs if you're the Lakers as the defending champions. So that's the thing to me. The economics of it are what you have to look at, and if there's $1 billion on the line after the league lost, I think it was a little over 10% of its total revenue last year, you have to start.
Well, and it was only as little as 10% because they got to play most of the season with fans. So if you go a whole season without fans, the revenue is just going to completely tank. And here's the thing: the players are going to end up giving in because they're not going to want to give up their money. If you cut the season down to 60, 50 games, that loses all the TV, the big TV revenue, and plus the fans not being in the stands. The players are going to have to give up a lot of money.
Well, yeah, go ahead,
Brandon.
I was just going to say that report just seemed like it was just LeBron. Like the players, I think it was just like the Lakers and LeBron just saying they don't want to start up right away. I feel like the rest of the league, for the most part, maybe like Denver, Miami, and like Boston, like could be in that group. But outside of that, I think all these teams are going to want to get back out there as soon as they can, just for not only basketball purposes, but money purposes as well.
Well, yeah, and sacrificing Christmas Day, which tends to be the biggest television day or one of the biggest television days of the NBA season, seems like a poor idea, especially because outside of college football, you're going to own that day. So that's
plus when the players start realizing that, okay, if you really want your 70 plus games, so you can keep your paychecks, and you don't want to start until January, now we're talking 3 games in 3 days. Now we're talking 4 games in 5 days. The players are not going to want that either. They're going to have to compromise. They're going to have to come in alongside the owners.
There is another way that this could go. They could sacrifice the Olympics and say, "Look, we don't care. We're not going to play in the Olympics. We'd rather start in January and get in a 72
But the
game
NBA doesn't want that revenue loss because of the competition with the other sports.
I get it, but that I think may wind up being
Well, the American players will probably say that, but there's international players. There are some national teams that these guys, like even Ricky Rubio. You think Ricky Rubio wants to play out the string if the Suns are not in the playoffs instead of going to play for his team?
Well, I would hope so. I get it from an emotional pull, but I also understand that there's a team paying your paycheck.
There's
and your livelihood as well. So that's that, and everybody understands this is just a weird situation. And honestly, there's still a chance that the Olympics don't happen based on how everything plays out in this world. Travel's still restricted across the world, and we don't know what July is going to look like. So trying to base your entire financial decision off of that seems a bit short-sighted as well. So
we need to get fans back in the stands safely, not unsafely.
What I want is just all of us watching basketball again. The bubble was fun, but let's get a regular season going again. Let's figure out how to do this, do it safely for everybody involved. But we'll move away from labor strife and negotiations because, well, that's not fun. You know what's fun? Rumors, right? Rumors are fun. And there's a rumor that came out this week that I think has a little credence to it. I don't think from a Suns perspective necessarily, but I certainly think the other team involved has interest. It's Kelly Oubre being a target of the Golden State Warriors. I have heard from some sources as well that Golden State is interested in Kelly Oubre, but I don't think that means that the Suns are actually going to deal him there. There's a lot of people. Dave has interest in Scarlett Johansson, but she's not leaving Colin Jost for him. All right, that's the way this works. You can have one side can have interest. That does not mean that there is a trade that will be imminent. But I did find it interesting because Golden State does obviously have the number 2 pick. They have the trade exemption that came back from the Andre Iguodala deal. So mathematically, you could make something work here. Brandon, do you see a fit in a potential trade partner? Or we debated this last week, Dave and I, or do you feel that Kelly Oubre isn't going anywhere regardless?
After the photo that was leaked, I feel like they can't trade him now. Like Kellen jokingly tweeted, if you trade him after him riding a horse, unveiling your new jersey, then you're just going to be cursed for life. And I sort of agree. I don't think that it's necessarily going to take him off the trade block just because he's in a picture, but I do find it much more likely that he'll be back next season. The trade does make sense from Golden State's perspective because they have the trade exception, like you mentioned, but I would not really advocate trading up for number 2 because there's going to be someone just as good at number 10, honestly.
Yeah, I just to take a step back, I get Kellen's joke and totally agree. There could be some bizarre cowboy curse that we have to deal with if the Suns dealt Oubre after that photo. But I can speak from experience. Very little kind of communication from the basketball operations to the marketing team in regards to we may deal this player, so don't use him.
Definitely.
It rarely happened. And in a jersey unveil and fashion, I understand why the marketing department would want to use Kelly. So I would not say that means that they won't deal him because I could tell you we've did some things back in the day and had no real insight into is this guy going to get dealt or not. So
yeah, no, I don't think the marketing department has any idea whether 2 weeks or 4 weeks from now the Suns are going to trade Kelly Oubre. Absolutely, I'm with you there. Whatever happens. I just
they're just trying to get as much good Kelly content as they can before they trade him.
Hey, I don't blame them. It hits hard and it's good on social. So.
Mm-hmm. But the only thing the social media folks are good at, there's a lot they're good at, but I love what you said when you told us once, Espo, when a trade happens and the social media team does not do a huge welcome to the Valley post immediately, you know the dude's getting released.
Yeah, that's the one thing that they are very good at. Basketball ops, regardless of who was running it, would tell you, do not say anything about this guy that we just acquired because he will not be a part of this team. Yeah. So that is one thing they can communicate very well. Or on draft night, they will tell you, don't promote this guy because there's a deal in the works or something like that. So that's another one. If on draft night they announced,
is that why you guys took Markieff Morris out of all of your advertising that one year? Not you guys, but the Suns.
Yes, that was part of it. Well, and everybody knew.
Plus, it was Markieff Morris.
So I don't see. I think you could, if they decide to deal Kelly. I think you could see Golden State as part of the equation, but I think it would be likely as a larger 3-team deal because to your point, Zona, I don't see them wanting that second pick when they could get the same kind of value in the 10 range.
And you're going to be paying more too. For someone similar, so it's just not really worth it.
It's such a weird draft.
Here's the thing. There's people suggesting the Suns should pick up the second pick for Oubre, only to turn it around and trade it for something great. There's a reason you don't even want the second pick in this draft, because the second pick isn't much better than the 10th. And this is an excellent segue into our big topic today, which is we brought Zona Sports on the show because you've done so much in-depth scouting for us, for Brightside and just for the Twitter world as well, and your fans on your website as well. Tons of in-depth scouting on this year's draft. First of all, let me ask you, Brandon, before we get into best fits for the Suns, where would you rank this draft as far as talent, top to bottom, compared to the last, say, 10 years?
Probably one of the worst in terms of top end talent, but once you get past those first, 3-4 picks, it really flattens out. And there's actually a lot of upside plays and elite role players that can make an impact. So, there's no Zion, there's no Ja, there's no Luka, there's not even like a Trae Young or DeAndre Ayton in this draft, but there's a ton of players that could be, high impact players and good role players. So it's definitely not a strong draft by any means, but overall, there's like, once you hit a certain point, you could find good value. And there's players like where you're like, oh, I could see it with him. Like he might work out, but there's no guarantees or anything like that. So
this is putting you on the spot, but let's say the 10th pick. How does the 10th pick in this year's draft compare to the 10th pick in last year's draft? Roughly.
I don't think it's that far off, honestly. I think once you get past those first 3 picks, it's pretty much a normal draft. Like it's not a strong draft by any means from that point, but I'd say, you get past the first 3 picks from 4 to 60, it's pretty normal. So that's part of why I don't want to trade up to number 2 unless they're really high on like LaMelo Ball or something.
Am I crazy to think, and the answer can be yes, don't feel shy.
You're just crazy to think
that. Well, that's true. It's dangerous sometimes. When you look at this draft, to me, it feels very much like the 2013 draft, the aforementioned Alex Len draft, where we heard, Alex could go number 1, and then Anthony Bennett goes number 1, and Alex Len falls to 5, and none of these guys turned out to be particularly great, but there were some true talent that falls later in the draft. Does that feel like where we might be heading with the 2020 draft?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think especially the teams picking in the 20s, they're good teams and they have better development systems. So I think you're going to find a lot of steals in this draft. Like it wouldn't shock me at all if, the best 3 players all went from 15 to 30 or something like that. So it's pretty unpredictable, and I mean, I've been scouting this class for way too long. I'm information overload.
You're a little tired of it, aren't you?
Yeah, it's literally the longest draft process of all time. So it's been crazy.
So let's talk about your favorites. Let's talk about your favorites for the Suns at number 10. Mm-hmm. Of course, it all depends on how the board falls, and it also depends on who James Jones really wants to reach for. But if you were the GM of the Phoenix Suns, who would you target?
Killian Hayes would be my top target for sure. He's second on my board. I think his fit next to Devin Booker is ideal. He's could end up as one of the most complete players in the class. He can defend, he can pass from all three levels, and just his ability to score from all three levels as well. Just he has a complete package, I think. And if the jumper continues to improve and athleticism continues to improve, he's going to be probably one of the best players in this draft.
How much does the fact that he's a left-hander to interest you? Because I think that sometimes that can actually make a guy's offense better than if he were just right-handed with the same kind of offense, because it takes for some reason it still fools defenders when you get a guy that's that relies on that left hand more than his right somehow. Do you think that plays into it as well? And is he one of the top talents in this draft overall, but you just think he might be in that 10 range for some reason?
Yeah, so I think being lefty definitely helps. It gives you an advantage. It's just like a instincts type thing. As a defender, you're just so used to guarding righties that even if you scout for it and like game plan for it, it's just like when you're in the moment, you know, being a lefty, there's always going to be an advantage. So he kind of reminds me a little bit of Goran Dragic too, fellow lefty.
Oh,
He's so crafty and like he's not the most athletic, but he just, you know, he finds ways to score and he's got the size as well. So a little bit of Dragic in him, just like a bigger Conley. Those are like probably my comps for him. And as
Dave
far as
his
draft range,
I was just gonna say, Dave and I are in now. You said Dragic, we're good.
Oh yeah,
yeah. No,
we're over that.
Not just because he's lefty, but just like the craft and like just body control reminds me a lot of Goran. And but yeah, as far as his draft range though, I have no idea. The intel on him has gone anywhere from like he could go 4th, he could go 14th. There's no
Heck, I think on his big board, Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, he has Killian Hayes number 1, right? Or he did at least for a while.
He does. How much of this though is paralysis by analysis? Because there has been so much time to look at this. We did not have the benefit of the tournament and different things. Obviously, that's not something that prohibits with Killian Hayes, but in general with the college players, what are we? Is there just it's been so long, and that there's so much thought that there's just confusion as to how this is going to play out because GMs are starting to outsmart themselves by thinking about this for so long?
Yeah, it's definitely unprecedented. Like there's no way to there's nothing to compare this class to, like as far as a process for it. So it's just really weird, honestly. It's information overload, and that could help you out sometimes. It can make you overthink as well. I know my board's changed a lot since like March. So I don't know. I can't tell you if it's going to help or like.
So nobody's played any games since March. So to give us insight into what makes you change your board around.
Just watching more, honestly. Just doing like some more rounds on the players. Maybe seeing games I hadn't seen before. Just trying to keep in mind like, you know, the system they're going to go to and stuff like that, and just how they translate to the NBA. So yeah, just watching more games, honestly, just getting as much intel as you can too. So yeah.
Where does Killian fit on your big board overall?
He's second on my board.
Okay, so who do you have one? Is it Weissman? Is that who you have?
I have LaMelo one actually. Okay. I think he has the highest ceiling. It really depends where he goes though too. If he ends up like in a bad situation, I could see that being a complete nightmare. But if he ends up in the right spot, like I think he has a chance to be an all-star.
So what you're saying is the New York Knicks is not where he should go.
Probably not.
So what is his draft? What is his defensive profile? Because you can't put a bad defender next to Booker long-term, 35 minutes a game.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a plus defender, especially his team defense is awesome. And he has the size too, to where he can switch onto wings, which is something that a lot of these like guards in this class don't really have. LaMelo has some size, but he's not as strong. Like I think Hayes is going to be able to guard 1 through 3, switch on the perimeter, and the point of attack needs to improve. But other than that, I think he's going to be a really solid defensive playmaker and someone that you can plug alongside Booker, and he'd end up being the point guard of the future.
All right, so Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes is your top best fit for the Suns. Likely, though, to go within the top 10? before the Suns get
most
on the board?
likely. I would put it like 60% chance he's gone.
Is that somebody you would trade up for?
I would, depending on the price. Just because I think everyone wants to trade back, so you might get a really cheap deal compared to most years. So if you're sold on Hayes like I am, then I think it would make sense. Just lock this guy in. He's your future point guard. Let him learn behind Rubio for a couple of years, and then he'll be ready to go.
So say Killian's off the board and you don't make the move up. Who's the next guy on your list and one that'll be likely to be there at 10? Because obviously, there's talk that, LaMelo might fall, and that I'm sure in your mind that would be the best, but I highly doubt he falls to 10. So who would be a realistic number 2 for you with the Suns?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way LaMelo drops to 10. That'd be insane. But I would say Devin Vassell would be my next top target, just because, if you like Mikal Bridges, this guy, I don't think he's quite the prospect Mikal is, but they're the same like archetype, just, 3-and-D wing, just crazy team defender. He plays like a free safety, just all over the place, just with crazy wingspan, defensive playmaker, just really disrupts the flow of the game. And he's been a 40+% shooter from 3 both of his years at Florida State. So he's someone, if you want to surround Booker with just, defenders with high IQ that can shoot, he just fits the mold. Just surrounding him with like Mikal, Cam, Kelly, Vassell, it'd really insulate Booker.
Well, in James Jones's little 6-man press conference kind of thing, the get together the other day, he reiterated the same thing he's been saying since he took over as GM, which is I want high IQ guys. I want guys who have clear skill, a clear NBA level talent in at least one thing. And then guys who are great teammates and they fit in the system and they can shoot. He wants that. He wants skill. He wants a clear skill. He wants guys who can shoot, and he wants high IQ, great teammates. So would you put Devin Vassell in that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think just he really fits a lot of the same, or ticks the same boxes Mikal does. So, and there's rumors that James had a strong link to the Mikal pick as well and did a lot of scouting with him. So I think he definitely checks all those boxes.
Yeah, I don't have inside information, but I feel like Mikal was the guy that James wanted, because there were rumors that Ryan McD wanted other guys who were also very good. He was targeting Shea, Gilgeous-Alexander, and guys like that. Then all of a sudden the Suns end up with Mikal Bridges. I feel like that was not McD's top pick.
No, it definitely was not. It was.
It's not a McDonough pick, type of pick, I should say.
Yeah, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander was his pick, and they thought they had the deal done, and it was vetoed. So that is, but it obviously turned out great, because Mikal is a guy that is a huge piece of the future, and I think your assessment's right that James Jones was a large part of looking and scouting Mikal. So it could give clues as to where they're going to head. Another name that we've heard some talk about, and I believe the Suns have interviewed at least once based on reports, is Devin Bane. As a Batman fan, I would love a guy named Bane just to make a million bad jokes. But from a basketball perspective, is he the right kind of fit with this team?
Yeah, I love Desmond Bane. I'm a lot higher on him than the consensus at this point. Have him as I think probably 16 or 17 on my board, and on ESPN he's still going in the 30s or something like that on their board. So, which is crazy. If he falls to the second round, just fire every GM from 15 to 30. But yeah, him and Grant Riller,
they're all going to be gone in 2 or 3 years anyway.
Yeah, there's no Brandon Clark of this draft, but Bane is sort of that same, just older prospect, short wingspan, but he's going to be good. He's going to do what he does, 3-and-D, high IQ, defends. So he's someone I would love. It would be a little bit of a reach at 10, value-wise. So if they traded back to 14 with Boston, got 14 and 26 or something and took him there, I would have no problem with it at all.
We got to remember that last year James Jones went into the draft with 1 pick, and he came out with 4 players. So James Jones likes to make trades during the draft. In the one that he did, he likes to make trades during the draft. So we can anticipate that kind of thing happening again, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this is going to be the weirdest draft in terms of moves too, because there's potentially you have free agency starting a few days later. There's going to be so much chaos and trying to jam so much into such a short period of time that I wonder how much it will impact whether we'll see more moves in the draft, maybe, or whether we'll see less, depending on things. It seems like this is going to be a very active draft based on the number of teams that reportedly want to move back. But at some point, if everybody wants to move back and nobody really wants to move forward,
that's it. That's it. Yeah.
This could be a very weird.
You're going to hear a lot of rumors about teams moving. Exactly what you just said, Espo. You're going to hear tons of rumors about teams moving back, but fewer teams actually moving back than thought, because there's only going to be one or two teams at the most who are going to want to move up. If you're going to do anything, you're going to trade out by giving up your pick entirely for something, for a player or whatever.
What I think we could see is selling picks, because there are going to be teams that took a hit.
Don't even bring that up.
The Suns are
the Suns going to sell their pick?
The Suns will not sell their pick.
Giving us inside information here.
No, the Suns will
that's why I
sell
wore
their
this cash considerations green shirt.
But
I knew.
If you look at the economics of the league, it would not be shocking if people sold off a pick for $3 million, because teams lost a lot of money. They're not looking to spend in a lot of cases in this offseason, which is why, and I said this on previous episodes, I think the Suns have an unbelievable opportunity this offseason, because they'll have cap space. Other teams aren't going to want to be as aggressive. They could come out as real winners here if they're willing to spend a little and spend smartly. You can't make mistakes in the way you spend, but if they can spend smartly, you could find value. And I think there's going to be teams that potentially pick up some decent picks for some money, because other teams just are operating under budgetary constraints.
Yeah, and another point I want to hit on that you brought up earlier, Espo, with like just the turnover time from like free agency, like right after the draft, basically, is there was a report that, the free agents are starting to like reach out, or their agents are reaching out to teams and getting these like soft agreements before the free agency even happens. So it would be very interesting to see how that affects the draft. Like if there's teams that are actually agreeing to deals before free agency starts.
Yeah, I heard that. I think Keith Smith, we had him on a week or so ago, and he tweeted that there's a lot of second tier. I asked him directly. He's like, if there was any rumors with the Suns so far that he's heard, he would let me know, but then he wouldn't give me any information. So we'll see. But it's also just the second tier guys. It's the minimum guys who said, they're not negotiating for 10 million. So guys like Christian Wood, even though there's there's fan and interest drummed up because he followed Devin Booker on Instagram and he wished him a happy birthday. There is a little bit of fan interest in Christian Wood. I get it, but no teams are even under the table negotiating $10 to $15 million contracts a year right now. What they're doing is they're reaching out behind the scenes through secondary, because you can't tamper or anything like that. But behind the scenes, no, wait a minute. This is the off season. I think you're allowed to talk to players who are free agents.
There's a period that I don't believe they've entered into the period where they're allowed to talk to those players. Okay,
so even informal, there's a ton of minimum salary guys who've already picked their team. There is, and there's an agreement that this is going to happen, because you're only going to have a week or so between the start of free agency and the start of training camp, assuming the owners get their way and start in late December. Then you're going to have a ton of there's over 200 players who are free agents as soon as Adam Silver waves the flag and says, let's go. So there's as soon as the starting gun goes off, there's 200 plus players who need to play for a new team or re-sign with their existing team. We're focusing on the top 20, but there are 200 plus. So those are the guys who have already agreed to deals. The Suns already have their little deal guys. We don't know what's happening with Javon, but Cam Payne already has a team option. Frank's got a team option. I really don't think Frank's going anywhere. There's no reason for him to go anywhere unless the Suns get really close on a big deal for somebody. Like if Fred VanVleet goes after free agency starts, okay, Phoenix, give me every dollar you've got, I'll sign. It's possible the Suns then will release Frank to get that room and release their rights to Dario to get that room. But until then, the Suns have no need to, until they actually have a target who wants to be reeled in. Maybe that's Christian Wood. Maybe it's not. We'll find out.
Well, Brandon, going back to the draft, when you're looking at this, who do you think is the guy that has the most value, that may kind of be a sleeper pick, that may not even be in that 10 range, maybe later, but could be a guy that, either James Jones gets an additional pick to pick up, or some other team is going to get immense value by finding him?
Yeah, so we already talked about Desmond Bane. He's one of them. I would say Grant Riller is another one, point guard out of Charleston Southern. He's got probably the best first step in the class, just like super good finisher. He can score from all three levels. He's older too, so I think he's ready to come in, contribute right away. I could see him fall into a team like in the late 20s and just like killing it, and everyone's going to be like, how did this guy drop? And it's like, I don't know, he's good. Like, it happens like every year. There's always good prospects that just because they're older, teams just overthink it and they might not have as much upside, but he's someone I could see coming in like day one and just being a really good player.
It's clearly though, that's a dude where you buy a second round pick, right? And then you take him.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So if you're James Jones and you're sitting in that war room, what is a perfect draft night for you to walk away from? What do you walk away gaining from the draft on November 18th?
I think the best case scenario would be Killian Hayes at 10, like I've said. But obviously you can't control the board. So just, I guess, taking someone that you think can either be groomed behind Rubio, like a Kyra Lewis Jr., Killian Hayes, or if you want to add some wing insurance with Devin Booker. I'd also definitely look to buy a second round pick in this class, just because I think there's going to be some really good value just in the early like 30s to late 30s. So, just getting aggressive, finding a cheap contract with like an older player like Killian Tilly is another name I would throw in there with Grant Riller, that I think, he has a lot of health concerns, but if he stays healthy, he's someone that I think will be a really good modern big, and that fits like the James Jones type of mold of player. And Monty Williams would love to coach him too. So that's another guy. If you can come out with both Killians, I would love that.
You brought up Kyra Lewis Jr. What do you think of him as a prospect overall? And is it a realistic potential at number 10 for this team?
Yeah, so they've interviewed him twice now, I believe, Zoom interviews, and he's someone that his stock seems to be rising. I guess the Knicks have a lot of interest in him as well with the 8th pick. So he's someone I would take at 10. I'd be fine if they took him at 10 if like Hayes was off the board. I think he's someone you could throw behind Rubio for a couple of years, let him lead the second unit. Just super fast, has like De'Aaron Fox-like speed. He's not as athletic, but just the way he scores and he can pass, play off ball. I think he'd be an awesome fit next to Booker offensively. Defensively, he's a little bit limited just because of the size. Like he can guard point guards pretty well, maybe like smaller twos, but outside of that, he's not going to be able to switch or anything. So he would be capped there a little bit, but I think just offensively, he'd be an awesome fit.
All right. Well, any final thoughts on the draft that you have? Anything that you want on tape so you can point back in a few months and go, see, I told you so?
Not in this draft. Honestly, this is the least confident I've ever been in any draft I've ever scouted. So I would say I think Bane and Riller are going to be way better than their drafted value. I don't know. I think Kyra Lewis is kind of undervalued too, but it just depends where these guys go. It's going to be the weirdest draft because honestly, you have no idea where anyone's going to go. There's so many smoke screens right now and everyone's trying to trade back. Like the Warriors, like everyone in the draft, apparently they're just trying to build trade value. It's like a new prospect every day. So honestly, this will be the most unpredictable draft of all time for so many different reasons. Not just the situation, but the players themselves. It's a crapshoot. Like there's 20 players you could tell me this guy's going to be the best player in this draft, and I'd be like, okay, I could see it, and I wouldn't be shocked. So it's crazy.
Let's just hope they don't end up with the worst player in the draft. So we got low standards here in Phoenix. All right. So to recap, just real quick for those who have joined us late, because now we're up to almost 100 concurrent people just on the YouTube side. We are dressed for Halloween. You got Super Mario. Yep, you got to punch the box above you and see if a mushroom pops out. That's right. We got an old-timey fan in the stands at a Suns game. I know you guys might not remember this, but there really was a time that fans were allowed to go to sporting events. And then, Brandon, we've got Zona Sports. Here is Cash Considerations wearing the green.
Yep.
Brandon, I gotta ask you: do you want to stay around for the rest of the show, or do you need to get out of here?
It's stupid again, man.
Hang on, Sarver's calling me. Yeah, no, I could stick around.
All right, because it is time for the best part of the show, Espo's Big Board, and Mario makes an appearance. Dave had to explain that, and this week on Espo's Big Board,
well, somebody else thought you were cosplaying someone, and there's no freaking way that's happening. So,
for those of you that are new to the show, which some of you may be, this is a segment where I just rank random crap, because it's fun, and no disrespect to our guests, but I don't know anything about the draft, so I can't give you a big board about players, but I'm going to give you a big board about something I know. And since it is Halloween, today we are ranking the top 5 Halloween candies that you actually want to get in your Halloween bucket. At number 5, it's the classic Hershey's bar. You can't go wrong with a Hershey's bar. I mean, there is just absolutely no way that somebody can get this and go, well, I don't like that. If you don't like chocolate, you don't like Halloween. I mean, let's be honest. And there's nothing more pure than Hershey's chocolate bar. So at number 5, you've got the Hershey's chocolate bar. It's a no-brainer. At number 4, give me a little Reese's Pieces, right? I mean, if you like chocolate, then you put some peanut butter with it. It doesn't get any better than that. I think Reese's Pieces are a great thing to steal out of your child's Halloween bucket, and I likely will do that at some point in the future. I don't think my 4-year-old's going out this year, but next year I'll certainly be stealing some.
Who's the most famous celebrity that did the Reese's Pieces commercials?
Oh God, I'm supposed to remember that from decades ago. No,
E.T. Fun Home.
Well, that's true. The Reese's Pieces did make an appearance in E.T.
Right.
And
in my world, E.T. is a celebrity. Yes,
it does remind me of Steven Adams telling me that he had never had a Reese's when he came in for his draft interview with the Suns, and I was very disappointed that he wasn't.
Well, that's
picked
the
by
only
the
reason
Suns.
he wasn't drafted by the Suns.
I was hoping they'd draft him so I could be the first one to introduce him to the joy of Reese's.
That's probably why he had a red flag. They passed on him after that.
But yeah, no normal guy doesn't know what Reese's is. We moved to number 3, and it's M&M's. It's a classic. The mini size, fun size bag of M&M's is a Halloween classic, and it's another one that. It's chocolate. I don't know how. I mean, if you have an aversion to chocolate, you don't like Halloween. It's that simple. And M&M's, again, are a great source of chocolate there. So I've got to go with that. This next one is probably going to be controversial. All right. I don't know who it would map to. And Zona, maybe you can tell me who it would map to in this draft. But Sour Patch Kids is number 2 on my list. I know this is controversial because this isn't a typical candy that everybody likes, but Sour Patch Kids for me are an all-time Halloween candy.
I can't believe you're up to number 2.
It's the James Wise.
The worst list ever.
Look, I've heard Golden State is willing to trade number 2 if you're really into Sour Patch Kids. You can get them.
Only Espo would trade up to 2 to get Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah, and I'd be a genius for doing it. But number 1 is the Reese's peanut butter cup. I mean, that if this isn't the ultimate in candy confection here, I don't know what is. Give me a Reese's peanut butter cup, and I am a happy man. That's why it is number 1 on my list. And now that we've bored,
Snickers would like to have a word with you. This is the worst list ever.
Caramel.
All right, what's your favorite off the wall candy? Mine, I'm just gonna say, look, man, whenever I see a whatchamacallit hanging around on a shelf somewhere, ready for sale, I've got to buy it. Have you guys ever had a whatchamacallit?
I have not.
You've
Nope.
not? Dang, it's in the white wrapper. It's got the Crispies, like the Nestle Crunch kind of does. It's got the Crispies. It's got everything in it. When you find a whatchamacallit, a Payday. Paydays are excellent if you like the peanut based stuff with the caramel and the chocolate and all that. You guys, Three Musketeers are being mentioned here. Skittles are being mentioned in the. Yeah, Three Musketeers are pretty good, pretty darn good. 100 Grand's a really good one. No, hell no, Saul. I have never eaten a candy corn. Oh no, I have eaten a candy corn, and I will never eat another one. Those are the worst. Candy corns are the worst.
Fun fact: they were once known as chicken feed, and if that's the kind of candy you're into, that the best comp to
I
it
imagine
is
that make
feed.
chickens blow up. I don't understand. Candy corn as chicken feed? What the
hell? It looked like chicken feed that you actually feed.
Oof.
That was just the name of it. The marketing team called it chicken feed. You know, there is one, and I was going to include this on the list, but I thought I don't know if I can. But I think if you're going obscure and you're going to say it, this is the ultimate Halloween candy. And if somebody put it in my Halloween bucket this year, I would be a happy man. It is the Thunder Dan bar. Do you guys remember these? There's probably these were in the 90. It was probably around that 92, 93 range that they came out with these, and they were just a specialty candy bar. I guarantee somebody watching the show has one of these buried deep in their freezer because they thought this is the coolest thing and I got to keep it. So
10% chocolate, 90% Thunder.
Yeah, well, and I love that you can also see the photo on the far right. For those of you listening on the podcast, this is the worst segment ever. Me showing pictures of a Thunder Dan Marley bar, but on the far right, you get the classic Thunder Dan in short shorts and a jean jacket '90s photo of Thunder Dan as well, and that explains to you why a Thunder Dan bar was so popular, because he was the Kelly Oubre of his generation when it came to photo shoots. He was the fashion guy that would do some weird shoots, but the Thunder Dan bar is one that you have to tip your hat to. Brandon, I know you were regretting saying you would stay for the remainder of the show after having to suffer through Espo's big board. But that is
your board. Your board wasn't too bad. I didn't have too many disagreements. I would throw Sour Patch Kids off though. That'd be my only.
Terrible.
What would you replace Sour Patch Kids with? What would you put on your list?
If we're gonna go something sweet, I would go Smarties.
Gotta keep it simple. I like Smarties a lot better than Sour Patch.
I think that's
I don't hate Sour Patch Kids, but I just want to put them top 5.
Yeah, Blueberry in the chat saying he's too young for this. Dude, everyone's too young for us. So, no, that's cool. What candy would you put in? If you're too young for this, then you probably still go trick-or-treating.
Hold on a second. How can you be too young for candy? That the demo for candy is like,
I know. I gotta know how young he is. Yeah, exactly. Or is today's young generation all about veggies and fruit? Would you rather have an apple?
I'd rather have kale.
Carrots. Kale.
No.
Can I get some kale in my bag?
Avocado toast.
Oh, no. York peppermint patties. Sundress Dunks says York peppermint patties. That is a quality.
Those are incredible, man. I can just you literally do feel like you're on the top of the mountain.
That is more a Christmas stocking favorite for me, because it reminds me of winter so much. But I like that. So
did you guys hear the news that it's this awful news that Peeps was going to not make their Halloween candy this year?
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's terrible. Actually, it's the best thing ever, because Peeps are the grossest candy ever invented.
Necco
and then they started making it for all that. No, Nilla wafers are so much better.
Oh, no,
so much better.
The Necco wafers.
Peeps.
A payday bar in the chat from Coach Fallen Founder. I'll give a shout out to a payday bar. That's good as well.
I mentioned that like 10 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, I don't listen to you. Jesus. I got to give the Flaming Ballers some love. Saul Bookman says the list was saved with peanut butter cups. You're damn right it was, Saul.
All right, Blaze, where's Blaze from? One, Lollies. Sure. Are you from England?
I think
Johnny
Blaze is
England.
I think Blaze is in Australia, isn't he? So I'll have to, Blaze, if you send me one, I'll eat one on the show. That's how
Twix
dedicated
is a really good one. Yep. Twix Kit Kats are really good. There's so much better candy than the freaking list that he gave. Come on.
Oh, well, Dave, if
Peanut
you
butter cups, though, are the best. I will give you credit for number one.
Dave, if you want to put in
my number one, easy.
Dave, if you want to put in some effort into this show and put together a list, we can.
Dude,
we can do a Dave's big board at some point if you would like. So
I appreciate the graphics. I just didn't like the content. That's all.
Well, we are running up against time, and actually, we're past time, but we're well over an hour. But any final thoughts as we head into the last couple of weeks before the draft, free agency coming up? Likely in 3 weeks. Any last guesses? And Brandon, we'll start with you because Dave and I will have some more guesses, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. But any thoughts on how this offseason plays out for the Phoenix Suns and what it will take to get to playoff contention?
Yeah, I think they're going to be aggressive in one way or another, just because the bubble really gave them a taste of like what they can do, and I think they want to make the playoffs. Obviously, Devin Booker, you got to keep him happy. So I don't have any like certain player predictions or anything, but I think they're going to make at least one aggressive move that might catch some people off guard, but I can't tell you what that's going to be.
I think that is the most accurate depiction of an offseason somebody could give. I'm not fully sure, but they're going to try to get better, and I appreciate the honesty there because none of us know.
No, I think what I took
to
away from what Brandon just said is that the Suns are going to swing for something interesting rather than just go the low ground. Like a lot of teams are going to really just stay under the radar this offseason. There's just too little money in their back pockets, the owners, and there's too little time between seasons. A lot of teams are going to look very similar to what they did this past year. There's going to be a lot of guys re-signing with their own team because of the familiarity and the lack of time in the offseason to get reacclimated. You got to move families if you're old enough to have one, all that. So I think to say the Suns are going to step out of that box a little bit and do something interesting, which is almost certainly going to be via trade. I totally see what Brandon's saying there. Yeah.
Well, I did too. I was actually giving him a compliment because he didn't just throw out a bunch of names and have no backing on it. He gave a realistic answer. Yeah. So thank you for that. By the way, Sundress Dunks in the chat says Dave's big board of doo-wop standards. And I think that's exactly what we get, or his favorite classical musicians, which Dave refers to as pop music. So yeah, so that is another edition of the Sun Solar Panel in the books. Thank you, Zona, for joining us. If you want to let everybody know how they can reach you, share it right with them now.
Yeah, just thanks for having me. Follow me on Twitter at AZ Sports Zone. Appreciate you guys having me on the show, and happy Halloween.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back after the draft potentially to talk about the aftermath of
either be a happy episode or a very sad episode. We'll see how it goes.
He is Dave
King.
It
can't be any worse than the episode that Tim and Espo recorded after last year's draft. So
I didn't know who Cam Johnson was. I admit,
an entire episode of who is this dude?
Hey, we were not the only people going, this was a stretch that they selected him, all right? Let's not act like that's crazy. And we were all studying who would be at the 6th pick. So Cam Johnson's name didn't exactly come up at the 6th pick. Let's be honest there.
He basically had a 1 hour reaction like Kobe White.
Enough.
Dude, it's all love, man. What?
And we make fun of ourselves for it all the time because
you weren't the only ones. I'll say that it was. There's a lot of people questioning that.
Hey, it worked out great, so I'm glad to look like an idiot. I'd rather look like an idiot than be proven right in those kind of situations. He is Dave King. You can follow him on Twitter at Dave King NBA. The NBA isn't because he works in the league; it's because he has some self-doubt, so he needs to prop himself up. I am at Espo on Twitter, and you can find the show at Sun Solar Panel across the social platforms. So until next week, have a good one, everybody.